could you go into some of the immuno benefits of the cannabis plant, especially the raising of cannabinoid levels in the blood?
Yeah, I mean, well, this is, in the film, we tell the story of a little boy named Cash Hyde. And but to back up a little bit before I start on that, I mean, there just has been more and more research, like starting off with this Rick Simpson guy out of Canada, where he used this very high potent THC oil to cure his own cancer. And he made a YouTube clip about how he did it. And, a year or so later, this YouTube clip has got millions of hits, and people all over the world are reporting that they followed this recipe for making this very powerful THC oil and curing cancer of all different kinds. Whether they ingested it, they usually transport the oil inside of little syringes, and just like a little touch. I mean, I've actually tried it one time, and just like, I'm talking like the size of a grain of rice, is unbelievably powerful. It's crazy powerful, but it takes, I mean, you have to take about a pound of extremely, back even a few years ago, it would have been about $4,000 a pound, top grade, top shelf medical marijuana to even create like a small amount of this Rick Simpson oil. Now in the movie, we focus in on a story about a little boy named Cash Hyde. They live in Montana. He was 2 years old, and he's diagnosed with a peanut-sized brain tumor, and he's flown into a top-notch cancer center in Salt Lake City. His mom and dad, Mike and Callie Hyde, are there by his side the whole time. And basically, after putting him through high-dose chemotherapy, high, powerful radiation treatments, his little body starts to give out. He goes into a coma for almost 40 days. And the hospital staff is basically telling him you better start preparing for a funeral. He's not going to make it. So, Mike Hyde, who's already a little bit part of like the marijuana activist scene, not big at this point, but he's there. He's probably a little bit of a pot smoker kind of a guy. He is checking out this Rick Simpson story, and he's been following all these Rick Simpson things. So he decides, like, well, as a last ditch effort, let's try to get a hold of this. But you learn that in a place, Montana, getting a hold of this Rick Simpson oil is no easy feat. It takes a lot of marijuana. It takes a lot of, know how to do this. It's not like you can just call somebody up and get some of this oil. It's hard to get. But he's able to get enough, and they start sneaking these syringes into the ICU unit in the hospital there in Salt Lake City. And the mom, Callie Hyde, she's a registered nurse, by the way. She's not; these aren't just some dummies who don't know what they're doing. She's a registered nurse. She's very knowledgeable about sterilization, about like what she's doing. And they start injecting this oil in little small doses into their son's feeding tube. And, of course, he's in a coma, which is why he has a feeding tube. Literally 24 hours, he pops out of the coma that he'd been in for 40 days and starts eating. And the hospital staff believes that they've all just witnessed a miracle. And then when Mike tells the hospital staff, well, yeah, it's a miracle of cannabis, they all kind of like shudder and back out, and I can't believe you did that. That's against the law. You can't just sneak medicines, and how dare you save your child. And that's where the story starts, and the story follows this roller coaster ride that they go through, and you see him getting better, and then the law comes and they shut down his caregiver. They take away his ability to give his son oil. The tumor comes back. He goes to California. He connects up with another guy named Ringo in Northern California who gives him all this oil. The tumor goes away a second time, but then they lose that source, and then the tumor comes back. And so you see this like roller coaster ride correlation of when he has the oil, the tumor goes away. When he gets the oil taken away from him, the tumor comes back. And, and then the inevitable finally happens, because the little boy was only able to put up with so much. He'd been through so much with the chemo and everything. It's a really sad story, but, the story of Mike Hyde, and Mike is running for mayor, by the way. Check that out, up in Missoula, Montana. So I hope everybody checks out Mike Hyde and the Cash Hyde Foundation and supports the Cash Hyde Foundation.